Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming. And
Hi everyone, I'm Toto.
uh, Bodo and I are really, really excited to be with you today. Uh, Whether it's morning time, afternoon, or evening, I hope that this is a sweet little drop of wisdom that you can carry in your pocket for the rest of the day or carry in your mind for the rest of the afternoon or one or two things I hope touch your heart as you go to sleep tonight, so you have very sweet dreams. My name is Bob Cirino, and I've been studying the Yoga Sutra for 5 years now, and I've been practicing yoga and contemplation for 10 years. Um, and I was really excited to do this drop of wisdoms talk because I think it's fun to share the things that touch our heart and the things that make our life better. I think it's fun to share that. And uh, at YSI, the Yoga Studies Institute, we have a course coming up on the Yoga Sutra. So in anticipation, I said, "Oh, I want to teach the Yoga Sutra for Drops of Wisdom." And the team was like, "Yeah, that's cool." And I said, but I want to teach with somebody. Who should I teach with? Because you don't find Yoga Sutra nerds everywhere. And so I met Duo Duo in Kyoto, Japan, all 2 year, a year and a half ago. And I don't know, I felt like I found my Yoga Sutra brother. Few people have spent as much time with the Yoga Sutra as Duo Duo has. And he's doing some incredible work of translating it in a very special way into Chinese. So, in humility, I said, Dodo, would you please help me teach the Yoga Sutra? So I'm really, really, really honored that Dodo said yes. So Dodo, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me to this great event. I think you're being too humble. I think you're a really awesome teacher and beloved teacher and inspiring teacher, and I'm really happy to be here and sharing my limited knowledge, limited wisdom together with you. Hope that we can make a little change in the world today. Just a little.
Yay. Cool. Thank you, Dodo. All right, Dodo, you want to get the first slide going and we'll
Yes,
dive right
let's
in?
keep going.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. So this class is about understanding yourself and your unique contributions that you can make to the world. It's about connecting to the parts of you which are most creative and inspired. It's about removing the obstacles that make it difficult for us to connect to those parts so that we can use them. By studying the Yoga Sutra, we're going to learn how to do just that. So today, we're going to go through 4 verses that are really, really inspiring. And if you only learn these 4 verses from the Yoga Sutra, then you have a big education. So we're going to fit this into 45 minutes, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So prepare some questions, because Dodo and I will be obviously very happy to talk about the Yoga Sutra or yoga in general, or anything, even in your personal life, does not have to be related to yoga. So we all want to become successful in the efforts that we take on. But sometimes, no matter how hard we work or how hard we try, there's seems to be obstacles. So the practice of yoga is really about how to remove these obstacles so that we can speed up our success and live totally fruitful lives. So by the end of this session, I hope that you feel a clear sense of how yoga can help you to clear away obstacles and speed up success. So we'll start with the first verse of the first chapter. I'll say it in Sanskrit, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So the first verse of the first chapter of this ancient text, which some people put the origin date to about 1,800 years ago. So the first word is atta, and uh, I'll take a moment here to say that Earl Burney is really an incredible yoga teacher who taught me a lot of the Yoga Sutra. Oh, Dodo, can you go back a slide? Um, and the joke about Earl teaching the Yoga Sutra is that uh, he is so in love with the Yoga Sutra that one time he taught this first word, atta, for a 90-minute class. So I promise I won't do that. uh, but uh, for me, it really indicates how powerful and beautiful this text is. So the first verse, I'll say it in Sanskrit, Atta Yoga Nushasanam. And you'll hear yogis sing it. And what you'll find if you study is that there's a song in the text. And as you study it, the song shines through, especially if a teacher shares that song with you. And so I'll sing the first verse. Hatha Yoga Nushasanam. Hatha Yoga Nushasanam. Hatha Yoga Nushasanam. So this first word, Hatha, it means now. So there's two big meanings that I want to share with you about this. The first is this idea that people come to yoga for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they had an injury physically and they're trying to heal. Or maybe they had some kind of breathing practice that helped them reduce their stress and anxiety. And they know that yoga is full of beautiful breathing practices. Others really value mind training and becoming very, very good with their concentration to stabilize their emotions, to develop kindness, and to walk through the world with a clear mind. And they know that yoga is really designed to help us in that effort. Uh, or someone had some kind of big challenge in their life, maybe a tragedy. And so they're trying to figure out how to navigate the world. And so they come to yoga for their body, their breath, their mind, or to help make sense of the world. And so this word atta means now that we've experienced that stuff, now we come to yoga. For me, I was really looking for big answers to big questions, and I wasn't finding really good answers anywhere else. And so I said, now that I've said that stuff isn't satisfying, now I've come to yoga. And the other big meaning of atta is it's a description of when we do our yoga practice. Atta does not mean now we do yoga on our mat, but later we're not going to do yoga. Atta means we do yoga now. When is it not now? It's never not now. And so we practice yoga now. And so we realize that as we study this text, that yoga is not something that has a starting point and an ending point of when we practice, but yoga becomes an all-encompassing lifestyle, a way to walk through the world with grace and love. It's something that we never stop once we truly understand what it means to practice yoga. And so yoga is all day, not just on the mat or on a cushion. We do yoga now, atta. And then the word yoga, which is the second part, so atta, yoga, this translation, which came from Geshe Michael, translates the word yoga to mean whole or to become whole. And there's a lot in this, and Duo Duo is going to get further into this, but one way that I like to think about this word in this translation is that if we've ever achieved something in our life and we're like, yeah, I finally got that thing, that promotion, that car, that project is now done. But there was still something unsatisfied in our heart. Maybe like something was missing still. We didn't feel whole. So yoga is about becoming whole so that when we do accomplish those things in our life, when we have achieved that success, we've sped up that success in our life, it's true success. It's success that helps us feel whole because we've done it with yoga. And then the last part of this verse is Nushasanam, which is a reference to it being a review. So yoga is passed down from teacher to student for generations. And I know that my experience of yoga is because of the kindness of my teachers, all the way back from Master Patanjali, who wrote this text in 200 AD. But even he is saying, oh, I got this from my teachers. So this practice of yoga has been around for thousands of years to get to us today in this way. And so this isn't some new thing that might work, might not work. This practice of becoming whole has been passed down for generations because it works so well. So how do we do that? What does it mean to have this success of becoming whole? I'd like to pass it to Duo Duo to help us to define what success means in the context of yoga.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, my turn. So now we come to the next verse of Yoga Sutra, the most famous verse, the definition of yoga. So I'm going to read it. Yogash chitta vritti nirodha. Yogash chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga here, as Bob has explained, means becoming whole. What it implies is that we are not wholesome yet, which means our dreams are yet to come true. Let's take a minute to think about our situation. First, the world we are surrounded by. For thousands of years, some of those things have never stopped. War, terrorism, racism, killing, lying, poverty, broken relationships, unhappy families, personal financial crisis, things like that. We are not in the most ideal situation. we have never been. What about our physical body? Sickening, aging, and dying are constantly happening. Health is just a temporary accident for all of us human beings. It is sad, isn't it? Now, what about our mind? We have all kinds of mental afflictions, anxiety, anger, jealousy, pride, depression, hatred. We are hardly ever at peace in our mind. And we yogis believe that the flawed mind is the cause for all our problems. Well, enough negativities. Let's picture something. Let's take like 20 seconds, close our eyes and picture something. Let's picture that all these problems are gone, that your body is perfect, no longer aging, sickening, or dying. You're always healthy. Your mind is always at peace, blissful, full of love and wisdom. And most importantly, the whole world around you is so beautiful. There's no more conflicts, no more killing or lying. Everybody lives in their own dreams, including you, every part of it. So we say if we eliminate all these problems, we will become undeniably successful. And it is possible. Now let's talk about the second and third word, chitta vritti. Chitta here means mind, and vritti literally means turn. Here the translation is how the mind turns, chitta vritti. But to complete the sentence, chitta vritti actually means how the mind turns things around mistakenly. I'm going to say it again. Chitta vritti actually means how our mind turns things around mistakenly. It is what we call the big mistake, and it is the obstacle to all success. So, what does it have to do with success? You know, how our mind turns things around. I would like to share a famous saying in Western China. It's called churning water for butter. Churning water for butter. If you work really, really hard, but in the wrong way, you will get nothing. Doesn't matter how hard you work, doesn't matter how persistent you work, you will get absolutely nothing. What it means here is that maybe many of us are already working so hard for success, but what if we are all misunderstanding how to realize our dreams? What if we are the one who is turning water for butter? To explain how our mind turns things around, I have to go back again to the famous story of the pan. Please bear with me. So, if you look at me, there's something in my hand, and I can prove it to you very easily that it is a pen, and you will also perceive it as a pen because I can write with it, and that's the Chinese character of my family name, Tian. So let's say with the same object, when this dog, this little cutie dog, comes into the room, what will it do? Well, many of us know the answer. It will probably chew on it, you know, want to run away with it, you know, having loads of fun with it, but not riding with it. So then we come to the first philosophical question, who is right? Right? Is this thing a pen or a chew toy? Well, many of us have already come to a very nice conclusion. Both are right. Depends on who is looking, right? Very easy. And then we are going to make a, how to put it? We are going to make a logical deduction. So when I put this thing on the floor and evacuate the room, all the men leave, all the dogs leave the room, what is it? Then we easily come to the conclusion that it is nothing yet. So at that point, we say we have found the emptiness of the pan, or infinite potential of the pan. When my first yoga teacher defined the emptiness of the pan to me, this is what he said. The emptiness of the pan is that the pan does not have any self-existing quality of being a pan. And it applies also to the chew toy and to every single thing in the world. And then we ask the next question. Where does the pan that I'm perceiving coming from? We have two options. One, the pen is coming at me. Two, the pen is coming from me. Let's say the pen is coming at me. The pen is coming from the pen itself. If it is true, then the dog will be writing poems instead of chewing on it. I'm going to say it again. If the pen is coming at me, if the pen is coming from the pen itself, then the dog will be writing poems instead of chewing on it. Believing that the pen is coming from the pen, or the pen is in the pen itself, is what we call chitta vritti, how our mind turns things around mistakenly. Many of us might say that we don't make that mistake. We understand what you're talking about. We know that man sees a pen, dog sees a chew toy. Of course, it depends on who is looking. It's coming from us. But I can prove easily that maybe all of us believe in the wrong idea that the pen is in the pen. Bear with me. Think about it. Have you ever done something like this? If you like some music and some other people hate it, you tell them that you got no taste. Have you ever done anything like that? How many times do you do that kind of thing in a single day? Yes, maybe we say that we don't believe that the pen is in the pen itself, but we don't act the same way. We say the only possibility is that the pen is coming from our mind. We are labeling the cylinder as a writing tool, just as the dog is labeling the same object as a chewing toy. Of course, it doesn't mean if you wish hard enough, you will get whatever you want. But at least we can have a better understanding about what chitta vritti means. It means believing that pen is in the pen, believing that pen is coming from pen itself, believing that pen has some self-existing quality of being a pen. Now, the second part of the pen story goes a little bit deeper. So, okay, now we know that the penness is coming from a mind, the true toyness is coming from the dog's mind. But where does that penness come from? Yeah, we know it's coming from here, but it couldn't have happened for no reason. So we say it's coming from a mental seed. What is a mental seed? How to plant a mental seed? Please bear with me, because many of you must have heard about it like 1,000 times. So our mind is like a video camera, right? And it records everything we do, everything we say, and everything we think of. After our mind records those things, okay, any of those actions, it plants a seed in our mind. The seed contains the content of your action. Whatever you did with your body, speech, and mind to other people, it is recorded in that seed. After the seed is planted, it takes time to ripen. After a while, the seed ripens and a luminous image comes out of the seed. And what goes around comes around multiplied, which means if I planted a seed by giving a pen, after a while, a luminous image will come out of that ripening seed and it will cover the cylinder or parts of the pen for me to see a pen. But it's just not one pen. It will be 10, 20, 100 pens. Because what goes around comes around multiplied. And I remember that my first yoga teachers, they asked us to do a little bit to participate in a little game which is called try to point at something that is not coming from our seed in the room. I remember my teacher popped the question, now try to lift your finger and point at something that does not come from your seed in this room. And I remember clearly that we couldn't point at anything. And that was the very first moment that I realized that everything is coming from us. Everything is coming from how we have treated others in the past. Now, let's go back to the Chitta Vritti. Now we have a little bit deeper understanding about Chitta Vritti. It means believing that pen is coming from itself instead of a seed planted by giving someone else a pen. So we added another layer for Chitta Vritti. Let me say it again. In the first half of the pen story, we understood that Chitta Vritti means believing, seeing and believing that the pen is coming from the pen itself. But the second part of the pen story added another layer to Chitta Vritti, which is not only do we believe that the pen is coming from the pen itself, we also do not understand that a pen can only come from giving a pen to someone else in the past. That's another layer of Chitta Vritti. So I'm probably running out of time, so I'm gonna go a little bit faster. So please forgive me, translator. So there's a very funny example that I'm gonna give. It's called father or son. So here's a picture of three guys, a younger guy, a middle-aged guy, and an elder guy. So the middle-aged, so that's grandpa, father, and son. So in China, it's when you call someone son, it's very insulting. It's not warm. It's not like in English when you call somebody son, you means, oh kid, oh I want to take care of you. No, it's not like that. It means you are insulting their mother, if you get what I mean. Okay. In China, if you call someone RJ, okay, it means you're insulting their mother. Okay. It's really bad. Also, if you say to someone in Chinese, I'm your daddy, okay, it doesn't mean I got your bag or I will cover your expenses. No, it means, the same thing. It means the same thing, okay, that you are disrespecting that person's mother. So say I'm the guy in the middle-aged guy, the good-looking middle-aged guy, okay? Okay. Am I a father or a son? By myself. Then we naturally come back to the pen story, the first step of the pen story, right? Right? So whether I am a father or I am a son depends on who is looking. My father sees me as a son. My son sees me as a father. As for me, myself, I don't possess any self-existing quality of being a father or a son. If I have any self-existing quality of being a son, then whenever I'm going out on the street, everybody will be insulting me automatically. They will call me, hey son, in Chinese, 儿子. They will be saying that they are having an inappropriate relationship with my mother, which is really, really bad language. But what if I am a father by myself? If I am a father by myself, okay, I walk on the street, everybody will be calling me father automatically, and I will be automatically insulting everybody's mother at the same time. Both cases are impossible, which means our identity, any identity, is just like the pan. It's dependent, but it's not self-existing. Get it? Okay, I hope the story is funny enough. And with the last word, Nirodha, let me go back a few slides. Nirodha, it means stop. So the whole verse means, how do we become whole? We become whole by stopping chitta vritti. What is chitta vritti? Chitta vritti means believing, seeing and believing that the pan is in the pan, not coming from how we treated others in the past, or not coming from we giving a pen to others in the past. The last thing I would like to point out is that this is the definition of yoga. But the definition of yoga is versed in a negative way. Let's read it again. Yoga is stopping how the mind turns things around. So check this out. Yoga is achieved through elimination. Yoga is achieved through elimination. It's not about accumulating things. It's about stopping completely the tendency of seeing and believing that the pen is coming from pen itself, instead of a seed planted by giving someone else a pen. But how do we eliminate it? Eliminate the tendency completely. You have to see it for yourself. So the next verse in Yoga Sutra tells us a really, really awesome meditation, which is seeing emptiness directly. I'm going to go through it very briefly. Tada drashtu svarupe vasthanam. It means one day in the deep meditation, you will see the truth for yourself. You will become drashtu, the seer. You will see the true self nature, svarupa, which means your own emptiness. and you will avasthanam in it, dwell in it, which means, in a sense, you will feel like water pouring into water. You will feel like your mind has become one with the object emptiness, but it's not really the case, but it feels like water pouring water. So why is it so important to see emptiness directly? We say, if you really see emptiness directly, it will help you realize all your dreams. But why? Because after that, you will never be wasting your energy churning water for butter. After that, you will be acting upon the truths that you have witnessed to realize all your dreams only, which is everything is coming from how you treated others in the past. Okay, I'm a little bit over time, and I'll pass it to Bob.
Wow, thank you so much, Duo Duo. Those were, I was cracking up. Uh, Thanks for the creative examples. Okay, next slide. So how do we do that? This big idea that Duo Duo just gave us. What do we do? How do we go there? So in the Yoga Sutra, there's a lot of methods for how we achieve this state, this direct perception of emptiness, seeing the true nature of the pen, seeing the true nature of the father or son. Uh, the first method that the Yoga Sutra gives us for how to do that is this verse. It's abhyasa vairagya byam tan nirodha. Abhyasa vairagya byam tan nirodha. Abhyasa vairagya byam tan nirodha. This is very sweet. So we started with the idea of we do yoga now. And yoga is stopping that big mistake of seeing and believing that the pen comes from its own side. And when we can stop that seeing and believing that the pen's coming from its own side, then we see the truth. How do we prepare ourselves to realize these three things? Well, here's a verse that helps us. And I hope that this is something that you can take into your everyday life. This is the yoga that you can do atha. This is the yoga that you can do now. So I'm going to start with the word vairagya. So vairagya means to give up the things that you think will make you happy that never could. How do we give up these wrong ideas about where the pen comes from? What are those wrong ideas in our life? So we can talk it in these big ways of philosophy of where an image comes from. Does it come from it? Does it come from me? But what are the things that are continually misperceived by us? And let's take a moment to think about that. For me, I love coffee. And I think that coffee makes me happy from its own side. I think that the pen is the pen from its own side. I think that coffee is happiness from its own side. And so what happens is when we attach to these things, like money makes me happy, a partner makes me happy, food makes me happy from its own side, we're doing the opposite of what Duo Duo just taught us. We're getting further and further away from the truth that the happiness that we think is coming from those things comes from us. And so this idea of vairagya means we're turning away from that wrong idea, all the way up from the big gross versions of coffee and ice cream, money, all the way down to the most subtle version of that, which is simply thinking that things exist from their own sides. And you can see someone who doesn't have vairagya living a very difficult life because they're constantly looking for things to consume. They're addicted to something obvious like cigarettes or drugs, to being addicted to things that are less obvious like TikTok or money or power. And they think that by consuming these things that they'll be happy. But the thing is, the more you consume that, the more you need to consume, or the more you think you need to consume to be happy. So the first step in this method of yoga is to say, no, I know that that will never be the thing that makes me happy. So vairagya. So if we're turning away from something, it means that we're turning towards something. And that shows up in this verse as the word abhyasa. So abhyasa refers to our practice, the practice of yoga, the thing that we're doing, atta, the thing that we're doing now. So the verse says, stopping it requires constant practice in giving up your attachments. So what are we stopping? We're stopping the creation of new obstacles. We're stopping our distance from seeing the truth. We're stopping slowing ourselves down from success. And so it requires constant practice. The constant practice, Earl gives a beautiful presentation on three different ways that we can think of this practice. The first kind of practice that we're doing is wisdom. The second is concentration. And the third is living our core values, living in a way that makes the world a better place. So how does the Yoga Sutra help us speed up our success? The first is by practicing wisdom. If I gave you a cucumber and told you it was a knife, and then told you to cut bread, you would not be successful. You'd take a lot of action with that cucumber, but you would never be able to cut the bread because you didn't understand the truth. You'd be foolish. You wouldn't have wisdom to see that a cucumber could never cut bread. Or, like Dodo said, you would churn water thinking that it will give you butter. And so, this wisdom that is referred to in Abhyasa, it's referring to the wisdom that the world comes from us, multiplied. So, this text will go deep into what that wisdom is. There's lots of beautiful examples and incredible descriptions of what that wisdom is and how to apply it in our lives. So then the second is concentration. So the first one was wisdom, and the second practice is concentration. You can know the truth, but if you are not concentrated, it does not help. If someone says, hey, I need you to look at this true thing, and it will help you, but if you're constantly looking around and being distracted, it doesn't matter if the truth is right in front of you because you just can't concentrate on it. In life, things can become very chaotic. And even if they're not chaotic, things can be deceptive. Thinking, oh, this thing I thought is success, I'm going to get that. And you're deceived that that thing will bring you success. So by training the mind to concentrate, especially with wisdom, then we become unshakable in the chaos. It's like when we see that incredible teacher who, when everyone's freaking out, they're like, ah! You can imagine maybe somebody in your life, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's your yoga teacher, maybe it's a different teacher. They're calm, they're focused, they're concentrated, and they're able to actually help people instead of be caught in the chaos. And so the entire first chapter of the Yoga Sutra is focused specifically on this idea of perfect concentration so that we can operate perfectly with perfect wisdom. And then the third thing then is ethical living. So if we have wisdom, and if we're able to hold our concentration, then what does it look like to live in the world? What it looks like is that you're living what you believe to be true. You have a very deep understanding of what it means to be a nice person. You have a deep understanding of what it looks like to live with kindness and grace and love. You don't have a foolish idea of that. You have a wise idea of that. And it's difficult to be distracted because you've cultivated concentration. So you can focus on that. When something is tempting you to break your core values, well, what if I lie just a little bit? What if I steal just a little bit? It's not that bad. No, you've already done vairagya. You said, I already given up that idea that hurting others will give me a life that I want to have. And then you've developed the wisdom to know that the reason we see pain in the world is because we create pain in the world. We're wise. We realize that by living with kindness, we will live in a world of kindness. By helping others be successful, we live in a world where we have to see ourselves as totally successful. So we have the wisdom, and then we're concentrated, saying, I can pierce through the illusion that hurting others will help me because I'm so concentrated on truth. So then the only way that we can live is in alignment with our ethics, with what we believe to be the recipe that creates a beautiful world. So when we combined vairagya, turning away from things that could never make us happy, with abhyasa, turning toward something that is true, then that's how we stop the chittavrti. That's how we stop that turning of the mind in a mistaken way. And then whatever we do, when we combine those two, will be successful fast because we've stopped creating more obstacles for ourselves. And we start removing those obstacles rapidly. In the business of planting seeds, yoga is a seed accelerator. Not only do we plant extremely powerful seeds in the practice of yoga, but we speed up the good seeds and we destroy the bad seeds. So these are just a very brief overview of 4 verses. And each one of these words that we shared today, each word goes so deep. Earl, who taught me a lot of the Yoga Sutra, he could teach the first word atta for 90 minutes and still only scratch the surface. For me, Vairagya and Abhyasa, wow, give me 3 hours. I want to hang out and talk about those 2 words. Uh, so if you're interested in learning these beautiful methods and these beautiful ideas, there's so much in the Yoga Sutra. And there's 4 chapters in total, and each chapter has a different flavor. And it's extraordinary to go through these verses with someone like Duo Duo or like Earl, who have invested a huge amount of personal practice and study in seeing how this literally makes our lives better, how we literally speed up our success and remove our obstacles. So on April 29th, Earl will start teaching the Yoga Sutra Chapter 1 with the Yoga Studies Institute. And I can't wait. I've already studied this chapter a bunch of times, uh, but I can't wait to learn it again because every time you study it, the ideas are so rich, the practices are so practical that you learn something every single time you start. So I encourage you to join us April 29th for 5 weeks to learn the Yoga Sutra, Chapter 1. And Duodo is going to be there too. So if you want to hang out with Duodo and hear a lot of these ideas in Chinese, Duodo will be really invaluable in helping to do that. Okay. Thank you guys for listening. I'd love to get some questions. So Dodo, you could probably stop sharing your screen.
Cool. Namaste. All
Yeah.
right. All right.
Okay, so you can type your question into the chat or you can raise your hand.
Yeah. Please ask any questions. And yeah, please come to study Yoga Sutra with Master Earl in April. Yeah.
For-
There's only thank you so far. I would like someone to attack me.
Oh, here's a question for you, Dodo.
That's Master Earl. Let me read the question. Oh, what did he say? Sorry. What have you learned or what challenges or insights have you found by translating into Chinese? Wow, that's a big question. Thank you, Earl, for asking the question. The hardest thing is to find the right words. For example, our teacher Geshe Michael translated yoga as becoming whole, right? So how do we translate that translation into Chinese? Because my choice is 圆满 eventually, because 圆满 means round and full. It usually refers to completed a spiritual practice in Chinese. I used to translate it as 完整 right? 后 becoming 后 完整 完整 in modern Chinese means just it's complete, but it doesn't have have that layer of the me of it doesn't have the, how to say, connotation of spiritual completion or something like that. So that's one of the biggest challenges. And also, I think because Yoga Sutra is so compact, and even the really well translated English version is very hard to read. So another challenge is trying to translate those verses into Chinese that is also readable for modern Chinese people. So that's my answer. Sorry to have taken so much time. When I talk about translation, it's just nonstop. Okay, thank you, Master O, for the question.
Dodo, I'd like to take this question from Keely, which is,
Yes.
as a working adult, I don't have 1 hour every day to do yoga. What will your suggestion for me to do a daily practice? Well, uh, if you don't have 1 hour for yoga, then let's do 24 hours a day of yoga. I love this idea of breaking the idea that yoga is a thing that starts and stops, meaning, okay, I'm going to do yoga for an hour, and at the end, I'll be done my yoga, and I don't have to do any more yoga. I think it's very valuable to do formal practice, but on days when I am traveling and it's hard to do a formal practice, I put most of my focus on how do I do yoga all day? So, asana practice, how do I put my body in space, like the physical yoga? So, if I'm traveling, how can I have the posture of a yogi? How do I physically show up in front of somebody who needs help with a posture that will help them? What's the state of my mind that I would like to cultivate in my formal meditation? How can I do that right now as I'm walking down the street or as I'm in a Zoom call? How can I have that state of contemplation? And so, all these things that you learn about what you're supposed to do in a formal practice, I like to expand that idea throughout the whole day. Um, and if you don't have 1 hour every day, I'll tell you my secret for how I started my yoga practice. I made a promise to my friend and I gave him my credit card. And I said, I promise to do at least 1 minute of yoga 6 days a week. And if I don't, you get to spend my money. And just doing at least 1 minute of formal practice a day, 6 days a week, created the seeds to see myself having a habit. And then that habit expanded from 1 minute to 5 minutes to more. And then my life started working around that big commitment of 1 minute a day. And for me, it wasn't the pleasure of having a practice that motivated me. It was the pain of not doing my practice that motivated me because I gave my friend my credit card. Um, Once you start your practice, it feels so good that you can't help but make it a priority in your life. And you'll find ways to expand from 1 minute to 5 to an hour, etc. right. We're at the end of our time here. So if anybody wants to give me their credit card, no, I'm just kidding. So thank you so much, Duo Duo, for your teaching. It was very beautiful today. Thank you to the
Thank you for
translators.
inviting. Mm,
Thank you to the translators for your very difficult job. Thank you to all the beautiful people who showed up and everybody who makes this possible. Please come back next month. Frank, I think we got an image. Um, Teresa Piro Santo is an extraordinary yoga teacher. And she will be giving next month's Drop of Wisdom talk. So we're really lucky to have her. So please come if you want a few more free drops of wisdom with Teresa. And if what you heard today touched your heart, uh, please come and study the Yoga Sutra. We'll be meeting for 5 weeks, twice a week with Earl, giving teachings on the Yoga Sutra. And then once a week, you can go to the next image, Frank. And then once a week, we'll be having a discussion group. And so much of the beauty of going through the Yoga Sutra is going through the Yoga Sutra together. We learn so much from each other. So it's incredible to get a teaching from Earl, who has taken the Yoga Sutra into his 3-year retreat. And it's also really incredible to go through it with each other and hear how each of us are understanding the text. I believe that if you study the Yoga Sutra, it will be a book that will be your friend for the rest of your life. I really think that if you were to only read one book in your whole life, it should be the Yoga Sutra. I really believe that's true. It's not Twilight. It's not a romance novel. It's the Yoga Sutra. Okay. Thank you everybody so much. Thank you, Dodo.
thank you and namaste.
Namaste. Bye bye.